Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is me, your old pal Orpheus, with another adventure here on Orpheus Plays. Do you guys like that when I do that? Anyway, hi, how you doing? I have a good one for you today. You know, when I was younger, I did a lot of different things. I've done some dumb things. I've done some other dumb things. And one of the things that I did in my life is kind of embarrassing. And I used to be a money launderer. I'm sorry, I had to admit it, and we'll talk about it today. Everything you wanted to know, I'll be talking about. So let's get things kicked off right now. We are, of course, playing Blade Sorcery, if you couldn't tell by now. Oh, let's see. 3 weapons come out in our survival mode. I choose one. Make the day very miserable for people who come out the doors. And I've never really had a staff to begin with. I think I'll choose this. Oh, what should I use? Should I use gravity? Okay, let's try this with our first traditional slow motion kill of the day with a staff. How about we just... Can I pick him up or something? No? Just biff him? Does that work? And then we'll just do another one with her. Where's the other person? You get one too! Here's another third traditional slow motion kill of the day. Wow, that really does a number on him, doesn't it? Anyway, so with that out of the way, let's talk about our topic today. Okay, so when I was growing up, I've never hid this on my channel. I grew up in a wealthy family, and before you get all like, oh, rich boy talking, shut up. I did a video where I explained kind of how I stopped doing that whole thing. I walked away from that whole lifestyle. I hated it. I hated being fake. I hated, people in my family acting like we were better than other people because of it. And it was really kind of annoying. So I walked away from it. I chose love with my wife instead of, the whole like, oh, you got your inheritance and all that shit. I don't care about that. Anyway, so I grew up in a wealthy family, and to preface, my family kind of did some stuff over the years that wasn't exactly ethical or legal. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. You know what? I don't even care. So here's an example. My grandfather was a person who grew up in the Great Depression, and when he got older, he started making a lot of money, and he would travel to Africa quite often. And if you know something... I'm so sorry, lady. And if you know something about Africa, especially years ago, they had this currency called a cougarand. And I think they still have it today. But it's a gold coin. Right, and for a long time, I don't know if this is still the case, but for a long time it was absolutely verboten to bring these things into the United States. Absolutely illegal. And I'm not, I don't know why. I don't really care. I've never looked into it, right? But apparently it's very illegal to have these things. And my grandfather, allegedly, now everybody calm down, I have no connection to this, and he's been dead a long time. He used to smuggle them in to the United States, and he would do this apparently in my grandmother's handbag and stuff like that. And so they would smuggle these things in over years, and I don't know how many he had in total, because again, I walked away from my inheritance, so I have no idea what kind of thing was going on with the state, because I was legally defined out of my family when my dad died. That's a weird one. Anyway, yeah, but so I have no idea how big that was, but that's an example of what my family would do. And some of them were legal loopholes, if you write off a bunch of stuff, you have a really expensive meal or a trip, right? You go on a really expensive trip somewhere in the world, and take this. You end up going somewhere really expensive, nice hotel. You have the best restaurants that you go to and everything. And my dad would say, okay, so what we're going to do on this 2-week trip is we're going to meet one of my business associates at Wednesday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right? We're there for a week and a half. He talks to this guy for 2 hours during the whole thing, and he writes off the whole trip, right? So get tax credits for going to, some country in Europe somewhere, right? So stuff like that. Looking back on it, I'm like, what a dickhead thing to do. It's clearly like violating things, right? If not legally, then like ethically, morally, it's not right. I never liked that stuff. But anyway, so stuff like that. Or helping people out. Some of his friends, he'd buy a car from one of them and he would list the sale price for $1, right? The person he bought it from. My dad also did this for people too. If you list it at $1 for the sale price, you have basically there's no sales tax on the car when you go to switch over the title and stuff, right? So my dad would do that stuff and, other little things here and there. But as a result of this, there was always cash around. Okay? Always cash. My dad, between traveler's checks, remember those? Traveler's checks and, if you don't know what traveler's checks are, I'm sorry, let me explain it real quick. They're like money, but you get them from a bank, and they're paper. So if you travel somewhere and it gets stolen, you can basically cancel the money before they're able to use it. It's kind of cool. But anyway, so my dad, combined between traveler's checks, you'd probably have about $2,000-$3,000 in traveler's checks at any given time, and then cash. My dad would have, oh my God, something like $500-$600 in his wallet, and he never kept track of it, right? Oh my God, this zappy thing. I'm gonna have this zappy thing. Hold on, I'm gonna restart this.
One eternity later.
Anyway, so like I was saying, so what would happen is he always had this cash up, and it was always kind of from these mildly, I'm not going to say shady or anything, but he always had cash on him. He never kept track of it. We had a treasurer at our family business who was a real nice guy, but he was also complicit, right? Obviously over the years, he was my dad's treasurer for 30 some odd, 40 years, if not more. And so he would give my dad an envelope full of cash every week. And it was just like, here's your money, Sounds almost like an allowance, but my dad had set it up so it's like, I need spending cash. And why would my dad need this much cash? Well, he was the kind of guy that, look, this is the basic premise, okay? Let's say you want to go buy a car from somebody, right? And they have it listed at $11,000 or something, $10,000, $11,000, right? So if you walk up to that person with a check for $8,000, right? And you're like, I want to buy your car. They go, that's not what I was asking. that's not the price I was asking, bro, right? But if you walk up to a guy and you have $8,000 in 20, so you have this giant stack of cash right there, right? The guy is going to be way more likely to let you buy that car because he's holding a giant stack of cash. Have you ever held a giant stack of cash? Like several $1,000s? You know the weight that is in your hand, man? The smell of the money, the feel of it, right? It's always there. And it was like, hey, how about this? I hand you a big stack of cash. And it was always like, you see their eyes light up like, yeah, sure, right? So where does this come in for me in the story? Where is my slimy, I'm doing the money laundering, right? Let me start with a little story. Over the years, because of this cash that my dad had, and if you've watched my channel, there's several reasons why this is something that happened to me over the years. I was not a good kid, and I would steal a lot of the money from my dad. And I mean, I stole ridiculous amounts of money up from him over the years. And it was like, he would have that several $100s. Like I said, he would never count it, so it would just cash in there, and he always had it, and he'd just, dole out cash during the week, or if we were traveling somewhere, he would make sure that he just had enough cash for it. So, let's say, my dad was the kind of guy, he'd come home from work, and he would take off his pants. Now, I don't know if you have a dad like that. Excuse me. Or if you have a family member like that they'll come home. Dude, you are pissing me off. They come home and they take their pants off and just kind of sit in front of the TV. Well, my dad was one of those people. And so he had 2 wallets, okay? He carried so much garbage around that he had 2 wallets. And like it depended on which one had cash in it and which one didn't, or if they both did or whatever. And they were thick too. They were like 3 inches thick sometimes with stuff. And so he would leave it in his pants in the back pockets. And so he would normally drape it over a chair somewhere. And so like, let's say it would be over here, right? He'd have them draped over this box, and he'd be like this far away watching TV. But he was the kind of guy that after dinner, he would go and sit on the living room floor, actually lay down on the living room floor. And he would just watch the news and all that stuff and just kind of get all the information, chill out. He was a businessman, so he, did his thing. He did his thing where he would do a lot of business during the day, come home, have a chill night, right? Okay. So the devious little goblin that I would sneak in. I would literally crawl in to the room where he was, and I would go up to let me get there faster. Whee! I'd go up to the boxes or up to the pants, and I'd like sneak the wallet out, and then I'd go and I'd like get behind something else so he couldn't see me, and I would take a bunch of money out, stuff it in my pocket, right? And I'd sneak back out real quick and real smooth and put it back, and then I'd sneak out of the room. Okay. So why does this get weird? Okay. If you haven't seen my channel before, or if you're not aware, I try to mention it once in a while because I like to connect with the community a bit. I'm autistic, and I have schizophrenia, bipolar, whole bunch of other stuff that makes life rather flavorful. Let's just leave it at that. You probably have met autistic people. You might be autistic. Heck, you might have found my channel because of being autistic or whatever, something along those lines. So, for me, I kind of idolized money in a way. I don't know how to put it right. Still, it's that stack of cash. If you've never held a big stack of cash, you're missing out, man. Just go to the bank and withdraw a few $1,000s in like 20s, right? And then just take it home and hold it, right? Just feel that weight, or if you want to be really weird, just like withdraw it, take it in the bank and just kind of hold it and riffle through it and smell it and and then just give it back to him and go, thanks, that's all I needed. Well, see you later. But if you've never held cash, it's this like magical, the paper isn't paper. If you've ever looked into that, it's not paper, it's got cloth in it and special things in it. Back then, paper money was a little bit simpler. We didn't have like holograms and chips and stuff in them. They were pretty simple, but my dad, what I always loved was when my dad would get the money fresh from the bank, because it was so crisp and it was so gorgeous and it smelled perfect and it was just amazing, right? Well, a lot of the times though, he didn't have that. He would have money that we would get his change from gas stations or whatever. He'd have 100 or something like that and get like 420s back, And so there'd be this other buildup of cash in the wallet that was not needed. And so instead of stealing the fresh money, sometimes I would grab a nice fistful of that dirty old money. Now you see where I'm going with this. Fooled you. But what I would do, and this is a rather unique way to do this, I would take all that cash and I would sneak down into my bathroom. I had my own bathroom. Well, I shared it with my brother, but I had a bathroom, and I would sneak in there and I'd lock the door. And I would take out that money and I'd fill the sink with water and with soap, and I'd put that money in there and I'd wash it. I would launder that money. I laundered it until it was clean. And then, the important part. This, in my process, I think was directly because of the autism. I have no idea why I did this. So what I would do is I would take the bill and I would smooth it out, right? And then I would put it on the mirror. Because what I wanted to do was make it crisp and flat, right? So you can't really do that just by smoothing out wet bills on the counter, right? So you take them when they're wet, you smash them onto the mirror and smooth them out so they stay there. Oh, but that's not enough. I would take... I'm just remembering, this is hilarious. I would take hairspray and I would spray it down real good, and then I'd take the hairdryer and I would blow dry it until they got nice and crisp, and then they would fall off the mirror. And at that point, I knew I was done. I knew the money was done processing and cooking, and I could successfully take it down. And folks, this sounds weird, but if you've never done this, and I know you haven't, try it. It's kind of fun, actually. You take your money, wash it real good, stick it up on your mirror so it's nice and flat, and it'll stay there with the moisture. Then you spray it with hairspray, and you just let it fall off the mirror. And you've got these, like, comically, stereotypically crisp bills. They're perfect, and, like, the only problem is, like, they're hard to keep in a bundle in your wallet. They kind of, like, stick together. So anyway, but that's my... I used to launder money. No joke. I used to do that. I got caught here and there once in a while, and sometimes because I never cleaned the sink and the mirror very well, so it'd be like... My mom would go into the bathroom and there's hairspray all over the mirror, except for in like perfectly bill-shaped rectangles all up and down the mirror. So, sometimes I just was like, man, whatever, someone else will clean it up, I don't care. But that's my story today. Orpheus, the money laundering child. Oh yes. And I did that until I was about like 15. Oh boy. More evidence of me being just completely autistic and like out of my mind sometimes. Anyway, that's my story for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Be well, do good, and treat yourself well, because you know what? You deserve it. We'll see you next time here on Orpheus Plays. Bye!